Hello, everyone, and welcome to Clock In with Stephanie D. I am your host, Stephanie Droulard. This is the pilot episode. I'm very excited to have launched this podcast, and I know you have several options, so thank you for listening. Here's a little bit about myself. I'm a certified human resources professional working in this field since 2006. The bulk of my experience has been in the private sector, working in different industries, including property management, retail, and healthcare. Most recently, I switched gears and now work in local government. My background is in employee relations and talent acquisition, and I've also dabbled in education and taught career development for a few years. So, a few personal facts about me. I'm a Brooklyn, New York native, currently residing in South Florida. I'm a huge WWE fan. I also enjoy sports, mainly basketball, tennis, and soccer. I'm a Leo, and my favorite movie is The Last Dragon. Yes, the movie from the 80s. It's pretty corny in comparison to movies that are out today, but what can I say? I love that movie. So that's a little bit about me. So I created this podcast to serve as a platform to discuss the pressing issues that concern us in the workforce. We'll share insight and consider new perspectives to help resolve those pressing issues and perhaps make our workday a little bit better. Now, without further ado, let's kick things off with our first topic, working with difficult coworkers. You know the ones. They're the ones that are a pain to work with. They complain all the time. They have an attitude most of the day. They're constantly late or calling out for work, leaving others to pick up their workload. They don't take accountability for their actions or lack thereof in group assignments. Yes, those coworkers. But to help us navigate through the pain point is today's guest, Mr. Antoni Tzavelas, Chief EQ Officer at Smiling Bowtie. Antoni is a keynote speaker, ICF ACC Certified Leadership Coach, and EQI 2.0 practitioner with a passion for human connection and emotional intelligence. With a career spanning 6 industries, including an unconventional leap from fashion design to cloud engineering, he's no stranger to reinvention and the power of meaningful relationships in professional success. Now, through the Bowtie effect, Antoni helps senior professionals and leaders bridge the gap between technical expertise and true influence by mastering emotional intelligence. His approach isn't about soft skills. It's about strategic human connection that drives engagement, trust, and results. But when he's not coaching or speaking, you can find Antoni running or cycling, rocking his signature bow tie, or deep in conversation about what makes people tick. His mission? To create workplaces where people don't just show up, they actually want to be there. Welcome, Mr. Antoni Tzavelas. Thank you for joining the discussion.
Hey, Stephanie. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to speak with you today.
Me too.
Yes. So we are discussing difficult coworkers and how to manage the conundrum that is the difficult coworker.
Yes.
What could you share? Share some strategies that we can use to kind of help us get through this situation.
Well, first of all, Stephanie, I wanna set the tone here. Usually, difficult is just code for I don't understand how to work with this person yet. And so the truth is, most difficult people, they're not trying to be difficult. They're just navigating. They're trying to navigate their own emotional blind spots. And sometimes, so are we. Yes. And
Yeah, absolutely.
comes to difficult coworkers that we need to take a more of an approach that is curiosity driven. Why is this person behaving this way? Is there a reason for this? And when we start to be aware enough to notice these types of behaviors, then we should question them. We should be curious and ask, hey, is there something going on? Is there, do you have something that is inhibiting being a little bit more productive or positive, whatever the case may be. So usually I love to look at it from that standpoint. So whenever we are having those difficult conversations, I love to start by seeing if we're aligned. And if we're not aligned, do we have an agreement that we can stand by? And when we have that alignment or agreement, then we can go ahead and be curious. What is happening? Why is the conversation going the way it's going? And nextly, we want to act with care. So we want to be empathetic. We want to as well model what we want to see in them by behaving in that same manner. So those are just a few tips that I like to use when getting into those difficult conversations with people who don't yet understand their own emotional blind spots.
Blind spots. Okay. Okay. I like this. I like this. Yeah, and that's what this is all about. That's why I created this podcast, to open up our minds and let's view our situation differently. Let's step outside of our own feelings, our own view, and let's possibly see things from the other person's perspective, from their lens, right?
Yes.
So this is interesting. So what stood out the most to me, you mentioned having a sense of curiosity, in a sense.
Yes.
Right? Okay. And it's true, whenever we are faced with challenge or tension or someone or something unfamiliar, we're defensive. We don't want any part of it. We have short tempers. We don't have enough patience, and that's it. And we're always bumping heads with people at work, right?
Yes.
So you're saying we should take the time to seek to understand where that person's coming from, have a sense of curiosity to find out why we're not aligned with that person, why that
Yeah,
friction
exactly.
is even there.
So for instance, if someone is being rude to you, you can always disrupt that pattern and merely say, hey, you know what, the tone that you're taking right now makes it hard for me to stay in this conversation. Can we try this again in a more positive light?
Wow. Can we try this again in a more
Yeah, it's
wow.
merely just making emotions visible so that way other people understand how they're coming across and how you are reacting towards that.
You're reacting towards that. Okay.
So a lot of times we don't want to react, rather we want to respond. And we want to respond with clarity and with care.
With clarity and care. Wow. Okay, so we have to look within ourselves. That's the first step.
Yes.
Right? Absolutely. Because as the saying goes, be the change that you want to see.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
So it starts with us. When we come across a coworker that we find difficult, it doesn't have to be. It really doesn't. If we take the time to try to understand this person, speak with this person. If you notice that they're having a bad day, to your point, maybe we need to reconvene at another time. We'll speak after lunch, or we'll try this again tomorrow, first thing in the morning, something like that. But rather than reacting, try to respond with empathy, because we all go through things. I mean, we all have bad days. Maybe you had an argument at home and you're bringing your feelings to work, and now you're kind of dumping it on all your coworkers. We've all been there. So if nothing else, try to put yourself in that person's shoes and empathize. It
Yeah, that's
doesn't have to
exactly it.
be that way.
Yeah, that's exactly it. We tend to neglect other people's emotions when it comes to, hey, maybe there's something that they're going through. Maybe they have a sick parent at home. Maybe they got into an argument with their spouse. Maybe their kids really, pushed their buttons this morning. There's always things going on behind the scenes with everybody, including ourselves. And we have to be empathetic, compassionate, and approach with grace. Because in the end, we all need grace. God knows I need grace, where there are times where I'm like, oh my God, I screwed up. We've all been there. But when we approach with grace, then other people know how to respond in kind because you've shown them how to manage.
Okay, this is good. I like this. I like this a lot, and I work in human resources, so throughout the years, employees will come to me and tell me, she did this or he did that, or why is she so rude, or she doesn't want
Yeah.
to do her part, blah blah blah. And that's what's missing here, is a sense of curiosity as to why is this happening, right? If it's not the norm and it's ruffling your feathers, why not try to understand what's going on here? Maybe you can help.
Even if it's not you doing the questions, maybe discussing it with a person who's closer to that person who snapped and have them ask the question. But in the end, I want people to be armed with the tools so that they can have these difficult conversations, because eventually we want to get to a point of what I call emotional fortitude. And that is, you are aware, you are armed with all the necessary tools to go into any conversation and be able to be understanding, to be able to have the difficult conversations, to, as I was saying before, respond instead of react.
Respond instead of react. Absolutely. Okay, so that's the proactive approach as opposed
Yes,
to the reactive
exactly.
approach.
We want to
Many
be
of us tend
proactive.
to do.
Yes.
Right, right. And it's going to take time. In some cases, even if we do try, it may not be resolved in one conversation or in one day. But if we actually put some good faith effort into working with this person, trying to understand where they're coming from, and also conveying the message that you're not the enemy here.
Exactly.
Like, we
Exactly.
just met. I've never met you before we started working together. So it's not like we have history. So, yeah, like, it could take some time to break that wall that some folks have, that brick wall that they have around them.
Yeah, for sure. And it all starts with us being upfront about our emotions. So
Mhm.
let's say I don't know, you have a person who always has to have the last word. I'm sure you know those types of people.
Yes.
So instead of, trying to steamroll them before they try to steamroll you, you could say, "Hey, that's an interesting take. How do you think that landed with everyone else?"
Mm. Yes, yes, that's true, right? Because, I mean, and the saying goes, if you're not going to say something valuable, kind, or helpful, why are you
Yes,
saying it? So if you're putting negativity out there, what do you think the reaction is going to be? How do you think it's going to be received? I mean,
exactly.
honestly, and sometimes we just have to ask those questions in real time. In
That's the
real time.
hardest that's the hardest part, Stephanie, is to do that in real time. And this is
Mm.
why, the that part that you were talking about with the self-awareness, that
Mhm.
is so key, is to practice active listening. I know a lot of us are working virtually and we're off camera. And because we're off camera, we think that, well, if they can't see me and I'm on mute, then I can do whatever I want. But in reality, if you're not listening for what's not being said, then you can't capture those moments where you do want to say something. where you do get triggered and you want to say something, but you can't if you're not really listening.
You're not really listening. Absolutely. That's key right there. Listening.
Yes.
What a concept, right?
Right?
Listen. Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the communication's best friend is listening, or effective communication, I should say. And that's something that a lot of folks just are not willing to do. You know, we're listening to respond in a sense, as opposed to listening to understand.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Oh boy, this is good. I like this. I like this. You know, we it's true. It starts within ourselves. You know, we can really create that change that we want to see. Taking the time to be empathetic and understand and listen and set the tone. And maybe you have to, maybe they need some hand holding. Maybe you need to take the lead to
Yeah.
guide that relationship. You know, it could be you and someone else working on a 8 month long project, and things started off on the wrong foot on day one, and now it's just misery for week
Yeah.
after week after week. But it doesn't have to be.
No.
That's the thing, right?
People want is just to be heard in the
To
end.
be
You
heard.
know, we have these difficult conversations, and there's always going to be one person in a conversation that is going to feel like, I want to be heard. I have the problem, but I want to be heard.
Hmm.
So we have to take that moment to be self-aware enough to pick up on that emotion, to say, okay, I'm sensing that there's something here that has been going on that hasn't been said. What's going on? To ask those questions, be curious. And once that person feels that they've been heard, things change, and things change quick. Perfect example is that we have a spouse or significant other, and we have these conversations, and a lot of times we walk away with somebody not being heard. And what happens? We carry that. We carry that all day. Sometimes we carry it for days. We don't speak about it. But until we actually bring it up and we have the difficult conversation and that other person is heard, it's not just going to go away. You can't just sweep it under the rug and expect it to go away. It's just going to build up until it gets to a point where somebody's going to snap. And we don't want that.
Right? We can only keep in so much.
Exactly, exactly.
Someone will snap for sure. Oh, that's fantastic. I love that. So let's do a quick rundown here of some of
Sure.
these important points, right? When faced with a difficult coworker, let's try to seek to understand where they're coming from and why they're being the way they are. Why are they always tense? Why do they have a brick wall around them? Why do they have an attitude? Things like that. There is something behind it, and we're all human. We all carry things differently. We all react and perceive differently. So being able to embrace differences is so important. We all need to be able to step out of our own views to have effective and successful working relationships with people.
Yes.
For the most part, we've probably never met. Most of our coworkers we've never met before, unless we work with our best friends or our family member. These are all strangers coming from all walks of life. You don't know their background, you don't know their struggles, you don't know anything, and they don't know yours either.
Yeah.
Right? So, taking the time to understand, ask questions, be curious, practice active listening,
Yes.
right? And bring that emotional fortitude to your conversation.
And Stephanie, I want to give the audience another tool. If
Hmm.
this seems a lot of it may seem foreign to you, but a lot of it is just like, yeah, thanks, Antony. Like, tell me something I don't know. But putting this into practice is extremely difficult for a lot of people.
Hmm.
And so I want to recommend a way to do this so that you can get in the practice. And so I tell people that when you walk away from a situation, you're like, oh man, I should have said this and I should have said this. We all do it. Even I do it.
Yes.
I recommend that you write this down. Write down what you would have said and why you were going to say it. What triggered you to say something like that? And so this way you can be able to have that not only in your mind, but to play it out. And I know this sounds ridiculous, but to talk it out loud. And when you start to put together those pieces, then you can start having those conversations with people you feel safe with already, your family, your children, your significant other, whoever it may be that you feel comfortable with. You start having those conversations with them. When you start writing it down and you have the conversation and you take those cyclical actions, then you're able to do it in the moment. But it takes a while to get there. So if you take anything away from this podcast, it's you need to practice this in order to get better at it. It's not just going to happen overnight.
Just like anything else.
Yeah.
Just like anything else that we want to be better at or improve, we have to put good faith effort into it, be committed to it, and practice, practice, practice. Oh wow, Anthony, I love this conversation. Oh man, so many people go through this.
No, and the thing is, people are simple. They just want to be heard. They just want to feel like they belong. And so when we have a way to communicate where we can connect and we can get on the same playing field, everyone's happy. That's the place where we want to get to, where we want to be at all times. But we need to work at it. We need to practice it. Without practicing it, we're never going to get there. Yeah.
We're just coming to work every day, and we're just like hesitantly coming in, dragging ourselves in. Oh, I have to see this guy or this lady again. Who wants to feel that way, right?
Nobody.
Some of us work 40 plus hours a week, and we spend a lot of time with our coworkers, more time with
Yes.
them than our loved ones. So we might as well put some good faith effort to make things work.
Yeah.
I find this conversation very important, and it's something that we all need to work on for sure. Oh boy, thank you so much, Anthony. I appreciate your time, your insight, and expertise today on this topic. I really enjoyed it.
I could talk about this all day.
All day, right? Exactly. Thank you for joining us today. And to my listeners, thank you so much for joining me. The next episode will be available within the next week or two. This was the pilot episode. You are listening to Clock In with Stephanie D. I am your host, Stephanie Droulard, and make it a wonderful day. Thank you all.